Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us again. Today, I have with me on the other side of the in the Netherlands. We're very close, but Hein Simons. He is the managing partner at MRP Hotels, an European consulting and consulting firm focused on hospitality on the sides of investment and hotel consulting on operations. Hein has a phenomenal career, global career as an hotelier, starting off at Golden Tulip long days ago, then NH, and closing off at Falkensteiner Group. Hein, thank you so much for joining us and very welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I invited Hein because he and his firm actually wrote a great white paper, and we'll refer that in the end with where you can find it. A great white paper on the impact of tourism, what is happening right now with the COVID-19 situation or virus happening, and then also made some great, and that's what I thought was very interesting, some predictions of how the European city markets of Amsterdam, Vienna, and Berlin will develop, and then actually looked at the what should we think about right now? What is the forecast? What hotels should think about? So, Jan, I leave it to you, and please take it away.
The one thing is most important for everybody to understand is that this crisis is a first for everybody. So what we wrote in our white paper is an assessment of sorts that we have made on the basis of our own data. We're very much like Revinate, data driven. So it's not gut feeling predictions that we make. We see a business that in the blink of an eye, in 2 weeks, dropped from stellar performance to zero revenues, almost. We start off in going to the base of the OTA. The business is a free fall, not only in their operational performance, because nobody's booking anymore in a Expedia or Booking.com, but also their value on the stock exchange has been greatly affected. The event business, events have been cancelled left, right, and center. We were to go in the first week of March to the ITB in Berlin. 3 days prior to the ITB is a conference where I always go to. It's the International Hotel Investment Conference, cancelled as well, only a few days out. And a slew of other events throughout the year have been cancelled or postponed indefinitely, most likely until at least next year. A third part of the collapse in tourism is obviously the airline industry. We need to go from A to B, but in traveling we are spreading the virus. So the airlines have grounded all their planes, and the consequence we see in the hotel business. What we've seen in the much in the news also of late is the problems existing in cruise ships, where entire passenger vessels are filled with people who are obviously infected with the coronavirus. And last but not least, in our beach acronym, as we have called it, is the hotels that are closed.
You can see like the impact, and I thought the beach acronym was a great way of looking at the different sectors. The impact on the tourism, which as you said, went from a full swing to almost an immediate stop, almost overnight, has been tremendous. But yeah, where does it leave us? You made you and your firm made two predictions of both the leisure and the group business on the short and long term forecast for these. So let's have a look at those.
Yeah. The most important thing is, for the long term, people will not let themselves be locked up for long. So that's good. And people will start traveling again as well. People do forget. We foresee a first pickup in leisure travel again after the tapering off of the stringent lockdown situation for domestic travel. And domestic travel is important because obviously it allows people to, without crossing borders, to travel, and people will want to visit again families, will want to visit friends again. So there we see a very good and possible pickup. Hotels need to obviously adapt their product and service concepts with the new normal, if there will be something defined as such. But there is a serious possibility of high demand for domestic travelers that we foresee. Flight destinations will recover a bit slower because we don't know and we don't think that the airline traffic will lift off as quickly again as an individual hotel can. So therefore, that will take somewhat longer. Group business, events, larger groups will be still prohibited for a longer period of time. France even last night extended till July 1st the prohibition of having large groups together. But there are possibilities for domestic bus groups, etc., to start picking up business.
You're quite pessimistic on the group side of business, right? And on the individual travelers, you do expect some pickup, especially when the restrictions are getting loosened a little bit. But on the group side, you expect a decline over the longer period as well.
Yeah, because we feel that group business has tremendous opportunity on a domestic market.
And on the business side, what is your predictions on both on the individual and group side? Can assume that groups are having a similar trajectory of.
Similar, because we have seen already that many big conventions, which are not planned with a lead time as short as transit or individual group business or smaller group business, they need much more lead time, and anything that has been cancelled and moved backward is more difficult to plan.
And on the individual side of the business, you do expect some pickup in the beginning and then kind of flattening out afterwards.
A short, say, peak, because business needs to be picked up again, and then we see things tapering off.
Then specifically, you looked at some of the markets in Europe, the markets of Vienna, Amsterdam, and Berlin, and made some calculations and forecasts of how these markets are going to look like. Can you talk us through the numbers a little bit?
We looked at some past crisis, and we have tried to go on an optimistic view and on a more pessimistic view. Number one, and let's use hotel business as our own business. Hotel business typically has shown very, very strong capacity to grow out of a problem situation, and so the way hospitality has rebounded from earlier crisis has been particularly good, also compared to other industries like retail. We have used 3 different cities. Central Europe with Vienna have with Amsterdam in common that they're both relatively small in domestic market, have very large international nationality mix in its guest build-up, and are also 2 cities where from ECA perspective, many citywide conventions or group meetings. Both are extremely well connected, whereas Amsterdam has the better airport with 60 plus million passengers a year, and Vienna being a very small airport. Important also in this possibility of picking up new business. In Amsterdam, we see, because of the high international market, we see a slower pickup, possibly because of the high amount of international tourists and conventions. However, its airline hub with Schiphol at least has the possibility of say, moving enough passengers. Berlin has more domestic travel and has also some big events, but has an airport problem still. It has an airport problem already for 10 years, but if you can't get there, and then once you're there, you can't get away. So Berlin is an interesting market because it has high domestic travel and no possibility to get there. But also for Berlin, we see a possibility within the next 15 months to pick up again.
One of the two graphs you put in your report, and I really like them because it kind of grounded us back to the longer term growth and the longer term trends of the hospitality markets are, and we'll show them on the slides, are the global tourism developments in numbers of travelers and inbound travelers, and also the growth of tourism expenditures. And I really like that you put them in because it actually brought us back. Like, hey, we've seen crises and we've seen trouble before as an industry wide, but overall there's still an upward line, and I think that's something that is always good to remind ourselves of, that there is some positiveness over the longer term.
Yeah, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a fruit fly or a firefly. No, I mean, travel will continue to grow.
And as last, you gave us a couple points and bullets to think about, and you said, what should we as the hotel industry start thinking about right now? Can you talk us through some of the highlights of the staff, the financial side, the contractual side, and the operations?
Yeah. Most important and foremost is staff. Without our staff, we're nowhere. And staff is a challenge throughout the world in hotel business. And so, it's key that the people are not let go if you can avoid it. Use of all the subsidy possibilities that the state is giving, so that people, although they have hour shortage and reduced hours, keep them employed. That's the key for the future, because if you do not keep them employed, you will have trouble finding, as an employer, people to be hired after the crisis. And if you're not a trusted employer, you won't be able to reopen the way you like. Number two is important. Keep the conversation going with your owners, the hotel asset. If you are in a difficult situation financially, have an active conversation with your owners. We do that on behalf of owners, also with operators, and we do that with big names, but also with individual hoteliers. We help bridge problems that may occur because of lack of revenues, etc. So, second, after staff, is make sure you have an active conversation and solution-oriented communication with your owners. Development is a whole different story. We don't know where it's going to go. Financing hotels with this crisis, so fresh in memory, is going to be a difficult task. But time will tell. Operations, rethink operations. Touchless systems, concepts, products, service ideas. You have to rethink the way we are doing business, with distance between people in mind, making sure that you stay relevant in the guest experience and the way you produce a wonderful service concept. It's still possible to do that. Yes, you will have to stop dead in your tracks with your teams. Think about, how can we do things differently so that this relevance can remain. and work for us rather than against us. So the traditional hotel service aspect translated in the new now, or the new normal, after Corona, is of tremendous importance, because you want to continue making sure that your guests do speak well about you. And obviously Revinate is an important player there in facilitating that. But from an operational point of view, that needs time, it needs focus, and it needs all the energy you can and experience that you get in there from your own team, so that you can deal with the new normal, so to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, these are some excellent pointers to think about, and I think as things unfold and things move along, we will see how these operational challenges get tackled. I've seen already some videos online and some hoteliers trying to figure out how to set the new normal, how to welcome their guests back once we are able to open up again as hotels. Jan-Hein, thank you so much for all your insight. And as I said, the report is something that is continuously changing and updated, so you can find it on the link here. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully next time we'll be able to do that in person and have a cup of coffee.
Or a beer.
Or a beer, even better. Right.
Better. Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks so much.
And good luck. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.